Tomorrow is going to be a busy day. We were down 2 members of crew. One crew member was medically disembarked and the other simply wasn't here because the rotations team shoreside had forgotten to send us someone. So the rest of the team had just had to pull together and absorb the extra duties. My morning extra duties included setting up some morning quizzes around the ship and setting up the morning movie in the mid-lounge, and then back to my real duties of Sunday church at sea, followed by a port presentation, followed by a shopping presentation, and there wasn't much room for error, so I decided to save myself a bit of time by going to the mid-lounge in the night and setting up the movie ready to go. So all I would need to do was hit play at the correct time. What could go wrong? The evening's operations in the theatre were over and done with. I ran up to the crew bar with my empty rucksack and loaded up. Fortunately, the bar was quite dead and there wasn't a queue, so I ordered 8 tins of beers and double vodka and Red Bull without ice. Like always with this particular barman, he didn't listen and slammed a big handful of ice in my drink. I cut the man a look and handed over my Laminax for the barman to take payment. The 8 tins went straight into my rucksack and I took my drink into the smoking room. As I passed the bin outside the room of death, I stuck my hand into my drink and handballed the ice out of my glass and dumping it into the bin. I opened up the room of death and sucked the vodka off my fingers, as it didn't feel right to waste any of the vodka that was on the ice. I lit a cigarette and began to nip my double vodka red. In nearly one go, half my drink was gone, so I finished my cigarette and then immediately sparked another. I just wanted to get a quick fix before I went to my time-saving mission. Before I knew it, my second cigarette was finished, as was my drink, and I was on my way out of the crew bar. I decided to take the express route to the mid-lounge, rather than going down the prom deck, then going through various different areas. I just wanted in and out, then back to the bar. I came to the crew lift, then I turned left and went through a door. This brought me to the passenger cabin area, where the corridor goes the whole length of the ship. I began to march quickly along the express route. I passed the fire zone 2 and 3 staircase. If I went down one deck from this point, I'd come to the deck 7 entrance of the theatre. I continued to march, then came to the fire zone 4-5 staircase. I went down the staircase and come to the back end of the atrium. I walked a few metres along the deck and came to the deserted mid-lounge. I unlocked the control room and went inside. This control room was a bit of a shit tip, as no one had bothered to keep it clean for ages. Now we were short-staffed, it simply wasn't going to be sorted anytime soon. I went over to the touch panel and began jabbing away at the buttons. I patched the movie player to the projector, then lowered the screen and powered up the projector. Fortunately, the noise boy had left the sound desk switched on. I pushed up the fade of the movie player and brought the channel live. I walked along to the movie player computer and loaded the movie program, then opened the file for the correct movie. Once the movie had loaded, I pressed the spacebar on the keyboard and the movie began to play. I picked up the projector remote and began to fiddle with the screen settings to make the image the correct size, and then I walked back to the sound desk and adjusted the sound level to what I believed it should be. Once I was happy, I went back to the movie player computer and hit stop. All I would need to do now was come back and hit the spacebar on the keyboard at 8 AM and it was job done. I left the control room and made my way back to the crew bar. Later that evening, after quite a few hours of getting trashed with my friends, I went to bed, and as my head hit the pillow, I realised that I left the mid-lounge control room open, but at this point I didn't give too much of a shit and just closed my eyes and fell asleep. The next morning came all too quickly. My alarm went off at 7 AM and, like always, I fell out of bed and crawled over to my bathroom. I pulled myself up to the toilet, sat down and began to offload mega defecation. There was a packet of cigarettes on the sink. I think there was some drunken logic from the night before, as there was also a lighter there. I took a cigarette out of the packet and lit it. There's nothing quite like an early morning smoke whilst taking a dump. It felt like some serious me time happening. When the ash was ready to flick, cut my cock and balls out of the way and ash between my legs. I couldn't help but think there was something missing. I looked around and noticed a tin of beer on top of the toilet roll holder. I picked it up and cracked it open. Now this was bliss. My me time was now perfect. By the time my defecation was over, so was my beer. I crushed my tin and threw it out of the bathroom, and the can ricocheted off the bulkhead opposite and into the bin below. Slam dunk. I wiped my arse and jumped into the shower. Once I was showered, dressed and ready, I checked the time. It was time to go to the mid-lounge and start the morning movie. I left my cabin and went to the stairwell, then climbed up to deck 7. I walked along to the crew area door on the promenade deck, took out a cigarette, lit it and began to stroll along the deck to the midship doorway to the mid-lounge. Once I was at the destination door, I stubbed my cigarette out on the pillar ashtray that was standing next to the door. The door opened up and I went inside. I made my way to the mid-lounge control room and checked the time. I had 2 minutes to wait. I looked out of the control room window and the lounge was full of old people and children, all sat there waiting on the movie to start. I was about 30 seconds from the official start time and thought to myself, what's 30 seconds? So I hit the space bar on the movie player keyboard. The movie began to play. There was no title or movie intro. The movie I set up last night had gone. In its place was an image of a man sucking another man's cock. In haste I fumbled around for the mouse and clicked stop. The image of the cock sucking was stuck on the screen. Jesus, I hit pause. I found the actual stop button and the screen went blank. I went into the movie file folder and saw the correct film, the film which I actually loaded and tested the previous night, and hit play. I pressed the house lights off button and the house lights began to fade to blackout. There was a knock at the door of the control room. I just knew that it was going to be an angry parent or one of those rinky, nasty old bastards ready to lynch me. The knocking continued and turned from polite knocking to ferocious banging. I want to talk to you, growled a voice from behind the door. Shit, it was an angry parent. I chose not to answer the door. I chose to lock the door and tried to come up with a plan. I looked around and saw the electrical locker to the right of me. I fumbled around my pocket to see if I had picked up my keys. Success. They were there. I opened up the electrical locker and went inside. I was lucky. There's an adjoining door into the atrium. I slipped through, locking each door as I passed through each one and made my escape towards the entertainment office. As I opened up the door to the entertainment office, my pager went off. Now, how did I know that was going to be you coming into the office, Mr. Collis, said the entertainment manager. I've been fucked over royally, I said. I'm guessing there's been a massive complaint at reception. The entertainment manager nodded. Do you want to tell me what happened? Said the entertainment manager. Hell yeah, I said. Last night I sussed up this morning's movie, tested it and set the background level to save time. And this morning I hit play and it was no longer the movie I set up. It was a man sucking other man's dick, I explained. Someone went in there after me and had a wank to the cinema screen. The room was full of children and some old bastards, and they all fucking saw it. How much did they see? Said the entertainment manager. Enough, I said. About 10 whole seconds of cocksucking. Can we go to the security office and find out who to shout at, please? Because I'm in the right mind to abuse some cunt over this. The entertainment manager picked up the phone and dialed up the head of security. It's the EM. I need to see the security feed of the mid-lounge from last night. He paused and looked towards me. Paul, what time was you there from? Start the feed from about 12:30, I said. 12:30, said the entertainment manager. Thanks a lot, I'll be there shortly. He replaced the phone's handset to the base station and stood up. Let's go, he said. We left the entertainment office and I walked along the corridor towards the casino. On the left was a hidden door into the wood panels of the wall. The entertainment manager opened up the door without knocking and we went inside. The head of security was at his computer and had already brought up the time index we'd given over the phone. Here we go, said the head of security. He hit play and on the screen showed me entering the mid-lounge with my rucksack slung over my shoulder. Said the head of security. I wonder what's in your bag, Paul. I wonder indeed, I said. The security officer hit the fast forward button and the screen showed me leaving the control room for a short time later. The footage was still winding forward and a group of housekeeping come along. The head of security took his finger off the fast forward button and the playback went to normal speed. We observed the group of housekeeping that numbered 10 move to the middle of the lounge and take some seats. One of the group left and walked over to the control room with what looked like a hard drive in his hands. The housekeeper went into the control room and after a few minutes re-emerged and walked over to the fire screen doors. He hit the close button, then he went over to the other side of the room and did the same. The housekeeper went back to the control room and then came out a minute later. We could see on the security feed that the gay porn movie was being played on the screen, and then it started. The group of male housekeepers started to have sex. Then the security looked at both the entertainment manager and I, as we both looked as shocked as he did. I looked away, as did the entertainment manager, but the head of security sighed and hit the pause button. You two count yourselves lucky, said the head of security. It's muggins here who have to sit through this, making notes and working out who the fuck is in this posse. The head of security paused. Fuck's sake, man. Last thing I want to see is a load of men making a love train. So glad I didn't have breakfast yet. I looked at the entertainment manager, scratched my head and said, do you mind if I leave? I've got some quizzes I need to set up. Without saying another word, I made a break for the door. I just knew that if I didn't make another escape, I'd have to sit and watch the CCTV footage, and I really didn't want to. As the door opened and I slipped out, I could hear the head of security say, "Hey," but I pretended I didn't hear, and that would always remain the story. I left the room and the door closed behind me. I darted down the corridor and made my way to the theatre. I ran backstage and out of the main crew area. I pressed the call button for the lift, and when it arrived, I went inside, leaving the head of security and the entertainment manager to have a private screening of a massive buggery fuckfest. This incident was never mentioned again within the entertainment department. All I know is that the frisky gang of housekeepers were found and had a massive bollocking, and yet again, nothing was mentioned again from the housekeeping department. After all, how could you broach a subject like this? I know that I just couldn't.